Hey, what is going on, Twintendo Nation? Hope you're having an awesome day. Throughout Pokemon's 21 years, we have seen many different types of Pokemon. These appear in the games, anime, and even the manga. And with the release of Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon, the Pokedex currently stands at a whopping 802. However, there are some Pokemon in the Pokemon universe that no matter how much we want, we'll never have on our team. Now, all 802 Pokemon apart from Marshadow can be obtained through some means, so we'll be looking at the best alternate Pokemon forms that aren't available in the main games. However, who knows what the future holds for Pokemon, so some of these Pokemon on this list might become available in the future. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and let me know in the comments below which Pokemon would you like to have on your team that isn't available in the main games. Also, quickly before I forget, I'm doing a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe giveaway over on Twitter. There will be a link in the description, so if you'd like to enter, check it out. Anyway, with all that out the way, let's start the video. Starting off our list is the elusive Crystal Onyx, which made its only appearance in the 87th episode of the Pokemon anime over 18 years ago. Crystal Onyx was discovered on Sunburst Island in the Orange Archipelago. Now, not only does Crystal Onyx look much better than its shiny variant, it is also immune to water attacks since its body is made of crystal as opposed to rock. However, because it is made of crystal, it has a weakness to fire. Nevertheless, Crystal Onyx has been a Pokemon that has long been remembered by fans, as it was one of the first special Pokemon we ever saw. It would also be great to see what Crystal Onyx looks like when it evolves into Crystal Steelix, and when Crystal Steelix Mega evolves. With its exclusive Crystal typing, Crystal Onyx could throw a few twists into the competitive battling metagame. Maybe one day we'll see the return of this special Onyx, but until then, it'll always be a Pokemon I'll want on my team. The next Pokemon on this list only made its debut in the last few years on the arcade version of Pokémon Tournament. This Pokemon in question is Shadow Mewtwo, who is the final boss in both the arcade and the Wii U version of the game. Now, Shadow Mewtwo is technically a normal Mewtwo that has become corrupted due to the Shadow Synergy Stone embedded into its shoulder. However, because of the Shadow Synergy Stone, Shadow Mewtwo is always looking for fights to help it gain more power. Shadow Mewtwo is incredibly powerful, and due to the Shadow Stone's power, even more powerful than regular Mewtwo, which says a lot. The reason I like Shadow Mewtwo so much is because of its colour scheme and as well as its design. In a similar manner to Crystal Onyx, its alternate form is much better than its shiny, in my opinion. Now, an interesting fact about Shadow Mewtwo is that it might be canonical to the Pokemon universe. So in an interview with Polygon, Masaki Hoshino, who was the producer for Pokémon Tournament, said Shadow Mewtwo was created in close collaboration with the Pokemon Company. Hoshino is quoted as saying, "When we were originally coming up with the design, we worked very closely with the Pokemon Company and Game Freak to make sure everything was right. What happened was we at Bandai Namco had the idea of making a really cool dark coloured Mewtwo, so we had one of our designers take a crack at it and then presented that to the Pokemon Company and Game Freak. They all thought it looked really cool, so then we worked together to brush it up," and Hoshino goes on to say that within the context of the spin-off, Shadow Mewtwo is obviously a canonical character and it is up to the Pokemon Company on how they use it in the future. However, when the Pokemon Company were asked on whether Shadow Mewtwo was canon, a company representative responded with no comment. I'll let you guys come to your own conclusion on whether Shadow Mewtwo is canon or not. In fact, let me know your opinion in the comments below. I personally would like to think it's canon due to its awesome design, and if you're wondering what canon or canonical means, basically they're asking, is Mewtwo or Shadow Mewtwo part of this Pokemon universe we know, so the animated games, all of that, or is it just like a different dimension altogether? So it sounds like, it probably is canonical, and hopefully one day I'll have it on my team. Next up is another Shadow Pokemon, which is codenamed XD001, although you'll most likely know it as Shadow Lugia. Shadow Lugia is very similar to the previous entry, Shadow Mewtwo. It is a normal Lugia that has been corrupted by the criminal organisation Cypher, who believe it is the ultimate Shadow Pokemon and completely immune to purification. This is technically true, as Lugia has taken a brand new Shadow form which is unlike other Shadow Pokemon, who appear normal but possess a shadowy aura. It also can't be purified by normal means, so for you guys who've never played Pokemon Colosseum or Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, The normal method of purifying a Pokemon is massaging it with special scents. However, Shadow Lugia is different and can only be purified through the Purity Chamber in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Now, Lugia has been one of my favourite Pokemon since I was a kid, and when I first saw the reveal of XD Gale of Darkness, I was blown away how awesome Shadow Lugia looked. It also has its own Shadow moveset, which includes Shadow Blast, Shadow Dowm, Shadow Shed and Shadow Storm. Although Shadow moves are weaker than their normal moves, for example, Shadow Blast is the Shadow equivalent of Lugia's signature move Aeroblast, it does 10 less damage. However, all attacking Shadow moves, apart from one in the game, are super effective against their opponent. So in reality, you're more likely to do more damage with Shadow Lugia than regular Lugia. Because of that, Shadow Lugia will be one of the best competitive Pokemon in the main games and could definitely give Arceus and Mega Rayquaza a run for their money. Now for this one, we have two Pokemon sharing the number 2 spot. These two Pokemon are Celebi and Victini. Now I know what you're thinking, Twintendo, I already have these two Pokemon. What are you talking about? Are you on crack? What are you smoking? Etc, etc. However, I'm talking about their shiny forms. At this current time, it is impossible to get a shiny Celebi and shiny Victini without hacking. So you can technically get these Pokemon through illegitimate means. However, we are still waiting for an official release, and until then, I consider these two Pokemon unavailable. Now the interesting thing is that there used to be 3 shiny Pokemon that were shiny locked. However, Jirachi finally got a shiny event in 2014 to celebrate the Japanese holiday Tanabata. So there is still hope for Victini to get a shiny release, but it's been 18 years since Celebi was released back in Pokemon Gold and Silver, and it still has no shiny distribution. The Pokemon Company even went so far as to tease us fans by giving shiny Celebi a prominent role in the story of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time, Darkness and Sky. Come on guys, really? Give us shiny Celebi. And while you're at it, you might as well throw shiny Victini our way too. Now continuing on the trend of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, we arrive at the Pokemon I'd love to obtain the most, which unfortunately I can't. This is of course Primal Dialga, which first appeared in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time and Darkness. Primal Dialga is one of my favourite bosses of all time and puts up one hell of a fight. If any of you guys watching this video subscribed to me back in 2015, you'll know I'm a massive fan of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon franchise since I used to cover it all the time. In fact, I might even like it more than the main games, and Primal Dialga is one of the reasons. Not only does Dialga look much better in its primal form than its shiny form, it might even look better than its original form. At its core, Primal Dialga is a normal Dialga that has lost control of its ability to manipulate time, with its new colour scheme supposed to be representing its berserk and savage state. And let me tell you, this version of Dialga is much more powerful and much more intimidating than its original counterpart. Ever since I fought it in battle back in 2008, I've been hoping that it gets included in the main series one day. Not only for its design, but the amazing music that plays when you battle this thing, probably one of my favourite gaming scores of all time. But getting back on track, Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire gave me hope that this might one day be a possibility, as they gave Groudon and Kyogre a primal form each. But let's be honest, no one was expecting a Primal Groudon or Primal Kyogre when Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire was announced. Mega Evolutions were the in thing back then, and so everyone thought we're going to get a Mega Groudon and a Mega Kyogre. But as we know, they gave them primal forms, and maybe that's something Game Freak want to continue in the future. So with the Diamond and Pearl remakes, which are expected anytime soon, we might get Primal Dialga on a main game in the near future. And since we have a Primal Dialga already in the Pokemon universe, it would make so much sense to continue this trend on and make a Primal Dialga and Primal Palkia in the main series of the Pokemon games. Now I have no idea what Primal Palkia would look like, but if it's anything like Primal Dialga, then we're in for a treat. Anyway guys, that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments section below which Pokemon you'd like to have on your team that isn't available in the main games. And if you did enjoy the video, a like would be super appreciated. Let me know if you want to see more content like this in the future. And also, like I said at the start of the video, I am doing a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe giveaway over on Twitter. Link is in the description, check that out if you haven't already. If you want to stay up to date with all videos and future giveaways, then hit the subscribe button down below. But anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I will see you on the next video. Peace!